Chapter 18, The Shadowlands. "Harry, turn the volume up," their mother called from the kitchen. "Sure thing," Dad said, reaching over from stirring the gumbo and pumping up the volume. "Aftermath from Hurricane Tessa continues to wreak havoc on our city," the reporter spoke into the microphone, showing the swirling patterns of the storm that had passed over the city. It had been a direct hit. The local news carried footage of the recent damage from the hurricane: flooded streets, garbage strewn everywhere, shattered storefronts, roofs caved in, fires from lightning strikes that burned around the city. The power was still out in the French Quarter, and the streets were dark and shadowy. Some of the shadows even seemed to take on monstrous forms, depending on who you asked. Only one business seemed strangely unaffected: Dr. Facilier's Voodoo Emporium. "Is it luck or special voodoo magic?" the reporter joked with a knowing chuckle. "Thank God we moved out of the floodplain," their mother said, watching with a frown. "Otherwise, we'd be going through it all over again, maybe losing another home." "Oh, we're so fortunate," their father agreed. "With climate change, it's only going to get worse." Dad carried the pot to the table. Mom took a seat and ladled out heaping helps of gumbo. The table was set for only 2 people. There was no sign of Jamal or Malik. "The mayor is giving a press conference on the storm," said the reporter, dressed in a yellow rain slicker. Their parents watched as the image cut away from the streets. On the television, the mayor stepped up to the podium. He wore a purple suit and clutched a staff with a crystal on it. On his head perched a top hat with a skull and crossbones. Around his neck hung a skull necklace. The eye sockets glowed deep red. He tipped his hat forward and leaned into the microphone. "Enchanté, citizens of the great city of New Orleans," he said in his silky smooth voice. He grinned widely. "Due to the damage from the recent storm, I've been forced to seize power and issue a state of emergency. The city is now under martial law." It was Dr. Facilier. Outside, neighborhood kids splashed in the water flowing through the streets. In the gutters, they sailed homemade boats, some of which vanished into the storm drains. Dad glanced outside and frowned. "Helen, I'm so glad we decided not to have kids, especially with all these hurricanes. It's a dangerous world we live in." He reached over and clasped her hand. She smiled at him. "Me too," she replied, squeezing his hand. "I'm so happy with just the 2 of us." "But we're right here," Jamal cried from the shadows. "Mom, Dad, we're your children. Can't you see us?" But it was no use. Jamal and Malik were both shadows. Their parents couldn't see or hear them, no matter how hard they tried to get their attention. They both continued shouting at their parents, but still it made no difference. It was like they didn't exist. In the living room, the family picture showed only their parents. There were no pictures of Jamal or Malik. It was as if they had never existed, thanks to the shadow curse. "How do we get back from the other side?" Jamal asked his brother. Malik stared back at him. He was still fading, but it had slowed since Jamal had joined him in the shadows. However, both of them would eventually disappear altogether. They could feel it. Dr. Facilier's laugh echoed out of the television set. Though their parents seemed oblivious to it, Dr. Facilier's eyes fixed on Jamal's and Malik's shadows forms. "Now you know what it's like to lurk in the shadows. Forever." And that is the ending of the Disney Chills Fiends on the Other Side, written by Vera Strange. Thank you for joining us. I hope you weren't too spooked out by our Shadow Man here. Hope we have learned our lesson about what it means to feel envious or even jealous of someone we know about, even if it's your own sibling. Join us next time on the next Disney Chill story. See you later. See you real soon.